we live? Is this working?
All right, we got it. You want me to go ahead and pull that up, or you want me to?
Yeah. Okay, we're ready to start the conference. I hope everybody's got a seat. How's that you doing? Can I turn this? Okay. First of all, we'll make some announcements every. Do we have both speakers working? It sounds like it. Awesome. It fixed itself. Yeah, we've had all kinds of technical difficulties getting started here, but this is like a first-time event, so bear with us. You know, the theme that we tried to set here is masters working in harmony with each other. So if we can all realize that we are all masters here and that we can all work in harmony, that this event will go real smoothly. If we get it down in the ego and the petty bickering and I didn't get this, you know, all that stuff, you know, it's, you know, we'll run into a lot of problems. So I also want to warn people, you are on a vortex. This whole ranch here is a vortex. There's some intense energy here. And you can use this energy and to help you heal, help you awaken. It'll raise your frequencies. And it's just amazing energy here. But this process also brings things up for us to look at and to heal and to let go of. So I can use that energy to release these things as well. That energy is very healing, but it's just an amplifier. It doesn't distinguish between good and bad or unhealed or healed or anything. So you can get some amazing energy here, some amazing healing happen, insights, downloads of wonderful energy coming in. And when your stuff comes up, just take the time to own it and release it and let it go and just feel it. Go into it, feel it, ask for help. There's so much help here right now around you in the unseen and energetically that's here to assist anybody who wants to call on it. So we tell people when working with this energy, there's two ways of doing it. You can go like this, you know. You can kind of block it and just say, okay, a little at a time, or you can go, okay, I'm ready to release and let go. I want to learn. I want to go forward. And we suggest the second modem. You know, there's a lot going on here, and again, you know, for any inconveniences, we apologize. We're working hard to get this together on a shoestring, and later on, I'm going to introduce all the staff and all the people that helped bring this together. And there's quite a few people that have worked 24/7 on this, especially the past 2 weeks, and we'll go into that and gratitude and bring them up here and torture them and embarrass them and all that stuff. So we'll get into that. Everybody knows we're hoping everybody will use the porta potties. The evacuation door is that way to the porta potties if you need to go. There's a door here. There's a door in the back. There's 2 porta potties here. If those get filled up, there's 2 others down the road. I'm sure we'll be fine on that. They arrived a little late, and you know we're telling everybody to put a cork in a while, but not really. But it was kind of interesting. But we're, you know, all of a sudden, in doing this event, there's all kinds of little things that pop up, and everything worked perfectly up to the event, and then right before the event, like hoses broke, things popped, speakers died, everything, all at the end. You know, even unfortunately, a very good friend of mine actually did die, who owned the llama ranch, and we had all these rooms booked there, and we lost those rooms because of him dying and all his family's there and everything else. So a lot of events have happened, but we just figure, you know, life rolls you boulders, you build stairs, you know, with them, you know. So we're just going to keep building stairs and keep going forward and just, you know, work the bugs out as they come in. We've got a couple changes here. We've got Neil Freer is going to take over David Sarita's space. And we have some other people that are going to come in for his space. We just found out yesterday at the last minute that he wasn't going to come. So there was a lot of communication problems between us. I don't know what happened, but we were communicating with him, and he was trying to communicate with us, and we never got any information back and forth. So I don't know what was up with that. So we did a speaker check. We called at the last minute to make sure everybody was coming. We called 2 or 3 times, sent emails out, and then it's just how, you know, people, last minute things pop up. And, you know, we have to, I was telling people right now, with what's happening right now, these energies are coming in so intense now. If you can't flow with change, you're going to be in big trouble, because things are going to be changing constantly around us. So we're just going to have to just say, well, you know, it just is, you know, it just is, it just happened. I'm not going to take it personally, and I'm going to go to the next step and find a solution or move on. Most of all, I really want to thank everybody for getting here. I know how hard it was to get here. I'm sure you had to go up against family and friends. You've probably been doing it half your life, and everybody telling you you're crazy. This is the place you're going to find out you're not crazy. So one of the reasons I built this place, I said I have 2 choices. Either I remove myself and go into the woods and become an alien, you know, alienate myself and just say, forget it, or I'm going to create a place for all the other people alienated that are awake and things are happening around them to come to. And so I took the second choice, you know. So again, I could go on forever, but I'll have my time slot. I don't want to go too far into the other one. We have some really good entertainment here. I wanted to open the ceremony with everybody just giving thanks for everybody for getting here and helping support the mission here, the cause here. This is something really incredible that's happening, and it's going to continue to unfold. It's just going to be amazing as it keeps opening up. But we're bridging dimensions here, and we're bridging other worlds, and we're raising consciousness, and there's so many things happening here, and it's just going to continue to go on. We have some music here. Are you ready over there? Are you set up? Did you want to come up here and use the... So I'll let you introduce yourself and tell you what you're going to sing and play.
Sure.
Yeah, it's really wired, so there's other mics on it. So she's probably going to... Is that good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Diana Fornoff. I'll be playing Ancient City, which is about the city of Atlantis. So I guess this kind of fits because some people thought the people of Atlantis were aliens. City in my dreams, ancient city, mystic land, lost and left behind by time. Dreams that speak to me, songs for eternity, take me to the golden ancient city. Now as the moon appears, trees wander in the breeze, blackened clouds adorn the sky. Moon shining on the sea, path of light to carry me, take me to the golden ancient city, where fires once burned, the shadows of the night are dark. memories, darkness for 1,000 years. Only dreams are left behind. Dreams etched into the stars, memories of a distant past. Take me to the golden ancient city. Now as the moon appears, trees wander in the breeze, blackened clouds adorn the sky. Moon shining on the sea, path of light to carry me. Take me to the golden ancient city, where fires once burned, the shadows of the night are dancing in the silver light. A once masterful race, now gone without a trace, lost and left behind by time. Lonely stars up in the sky, listen to my song tonight and take me to the golden ancient city.
What an opening. Oh, this is really, it's like really emotional for me too. That energy was so intense. I started getting all welled up with it. But thank you so much, Diana and Ananda. And she's with it's a Portland Symphonic Girls Choir. Is that right? Okay. They have some amazing CDs they're putting out now. And the youth, it's amazing what's coming from the youth right now. And to me, they're the real masters here coming in. We need to start listening to them a little more about how to treat ourselves and the planet. There's so much, I think I've covered just about everything. I don't know if I missed anything, we'll keep going along and making announcements as we go. I think we're about ready to get started with our first presenter, which is Steve Moreno. And Steve Moreno is, how long have you been with us? God knows. Yeah, since the beginning, I guess. But Steve's been our chief investigator and documenter of all the activity here. He's been doing all the research of the ancient research, which he's probably going to go into, over on the Yakima Reservation, which is what you're looking at the mountain. On the right side is the whole Yakima Reservation. And he's been up here photographing all kinds of ships. Did we get that one up? We didn't, did we? Oh, well. Is it up there? Oh, there it is, one of them. But we filmed some just phenomenal activity here. And the most important thing is I think it's wonderful everybody's coming up here and showing you all these things. But this is a journey where it's going to be experiential. You're going to be able to experience the energy and actually see for yourself some of these things flying. Some people saw them last night. Some big globes powered up and flew in from the south, and one came in from the north and powered up early in the evening. So we got a little, I asked them about that, what was going to go on, and they said, well, the show doesn't really start till Friday, so I think Friday night, Saturday night, we'll probably have a lot of activity coming over here. But I don't know, I can't thank Steve enough. He's been a staunch supporter. He's dealt with a lot of the left-brain scientific community for me. I love the left-brain science part, but as far as the documentation and everything else, I'm more of a feeling person. I feel the connection. I'm more of a contactee or an intuitive. And Steve is also, but he's got work on both sides, and I let him work a lot on on the other side for me, because I've got so many other things going on. You know, I don't even know where to start. So, but Steve's just been doing incredible documentation on the ongoing activity here, and as well as Peru and other places as well, and it's all tied together. So I think Steve is going to tie it all together for us. Are you ready, Steve? Steve Moreno.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, be your first speaker. To come up here. I know it took a lot to do it. So to kind of get everybody tuned in, I just want to do a little survey of the audience here, say a survey by raising hands, just 3 quick questions. First question would be, how many of you don't believe in UFOs? Everybody believes, okay. My next question for you is, how many of you aren't in the NSA? Okay, last question is, how many of you don't believe that there's a real galactic confederation? Okay, well, good. I'm dealing with a lot of believers, and hopefully, if it's true, most of you aren't with the NSA. Okay, I'll have to also say something here briefly. James has just done an incredible job ever since day one. When I first came up here back in 1999, I think, I was drawn up here by an investigation an associate researcher of mine did regarding his claim that, James's claim that he was taken aboard one of these light craft, and he had a heart-shaped burn on his chest, and there was some other physical evidence that intrigued me. With physical evidence for all of us nuts and bolts guys, we always want to see what that's really about. So I came up and I met James for the first time, and it was really an incredible weekend because nobody else could make it up here for some reason. So James and I had exclusive time there for the weekend. So I took advantage of it and did a video interview with him, went back over his history, searched his room for any hair dryers or anything that could have caused that burn on his chest. Did that sort of thing. I was really impressed by his integrity. We didn't see any activity here that weekend really to speak of, but the most incredible thing is I kind of taught James the virtues of a Sony night cam and what he was going to have to do to document the phenomenon that was occurring in order for it to be shown as a reality and not just some sort of mythical fantasy or something. And over time, it's exactly what he did. He took that Sony night cam board, just collected hours and hours of footage. The second thing that was incredible to me was his connection to coming up here to the ranch has a set of dynamics in it which I haven't seen to exist in any other case file. Basically, that being, James had an NDE that's unique in its own right. Most people have an NDE and they go through a tunnel and they come up to a crossing point. If they go over that crossing point, supposedly they're dead and they're not coming back. Well, James shot right through the tunnel, right over the crossing point, right into the light. And as he describes it, being there in the light, he was so overwhelmed by the beauty of it, because in his life here in physicality, he was just a high-paced real estate agent. He was out there surfing off the coast of California, and this big sneaker wave caught him and several other people, and he succumbed to death basically because he was taken down. He couldn't breathe, and that's where he ended up. He was so overwhelmed by the beauty he felt from what he described as source that he wanted to come back. And so as he describes it, Source asked him what he would like to do with it. He said he'd like to go back, and he hears so be it, and he washes back up on the shore. Well, his whole life changed, and he was drawn up to this location here telepathically by divining on a map. He had no idea of UFO. At that time, there really wasn't any activity up here. And his whole concept was to develop the Self-Mastery Earth Institute. And when he was meditating one day is when his sister knocked on the door, and she had seen a craft over his house when he was meditating, and he had received a message something in that regard. When he asked his telepathic contact, "Where are you?" he heard, "We're in a ship above you," and he never heard anything like that before. So since then, there's been a gravitating aspect of the phenomenon that's been exponential, in fact, and its source, how it's increased, and a great set of dynamics. In this field we call ufology, there's a lot of contention with people who experience some tone of spirituality with it. And James, of course, didn't let that stop him from announcing that aspect of his connection to the phenomenon. So as it was, there were several people who came out and totally denounced there was any reality to any of this, even though they wouldn't look at the evidence. So we proceeded to do some research and uncovered a set of dynamics which is pretty fantastic. None other than James Allen Hynek, the kingpin of ufology back in time, who was actually with the government and involved in some of the best research, had asked for there to be a study up in this area. Actually, the Yakima Indian Reservation, which is on the other side of Mount Adams, as the crow flies, maybe 60 miles, because there was this whole set of phenomenon that was going on over there that was similar to the characteristics of what was now transpiring over James Ranch. So a fellow by the name of Dr. Ackers with the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization conducted a 3-year scientific study, which we acquired. And one noted aspect of that 3-year study stood out. It noted that the phenomenon seemed to avoid their attempts to document it, so much so that it seemed to act with an intelligence. So that their database was limited in what they could gather because of the problems they were having with that. They'd get a report, they'd try to show up, and somehow these lights would know they were showing up and would take off just before they got there. So what we have here is that whole previous flop of activity came to ceasing to exist basically around 1986. And then when James moved up here, about 1990 or so, by 1995 it started to increase and pick up right over the ranch. Now, the only one thing that was notably different in the comparison of this phenomenon was the fact that over James Ranch here, it seems to demonstrate a willingness to be recorded and documented. So this is interesting because as time has gone on, you know, to study this phenomenon, mostly it seems to represent anomalous light type of activity. But in analysis of numerous hours of video footage, there's been probably maybe 5 to 10% of instances where we're actually finding physical craft in the lights. In other instances, I would say that there's probably some sort of plasma phenomenon being demonstrated here that would be really worthy of scientific study. This still remains a relative unknown in the world of conventionality and plasma physics, because once it's known, this is a great natural laboratory where new innovations and developments and energy and everything else can occur. But beyond that scientific nuts and bolts aspect, we still have the spiritual aspect of what this phenomenon represents. What I'm trying to say here is that there really has been nothing negative that's occurred, even going back into the previous study that Dr. Ackers did. And going back even through the records of Indian lore and such, it's been a positive aspect. So we have this project that we coined Project Con, the concept being to see if we can get these lights to actually cooperatively demonstrate their willingness to be documented by even possibly landing or responding to what we refer to as C5 protocols. That would be the flashing of lights or even sending audio signals, that sort of thing. We're in the process of developing those protocols, and actually they've been, you know, deployed and shown to. We haven't had anything actually land. James talks about landings up on the mountain. There's some incredible footage of incredible energy aspects of these lights up on the mountain, rolling all the way up to the top of the mountain, coming back down. We have all this footage digitized. what it represents, I don't know that I could say it's actually a landing, but there's definitely something occurring there. I reconned the mountain, and you can see where these balls of light have come down into the forest. It almost like there's areas of the forest where there's these huge circular areas where the trees are mutated and they're not growing back like they normally would. And down on the forest layer is all silicon sand. And to me, it looks like those are the areas. I haven't really had a chance to pursue that further, though I think it would be a worthy endeavor. Now, so I'm going to take this a little bit forward here because I only have about an hour to speak, and I want to get some good stuff here for you. But what's interesting is that there's another aspect of this. As time has gone down the road, James has really garnered the attention and the respect of people in the messages that he puts out, which are kind of universal in nature. They're not self-proprietary, they're not aimed at his own personal gain. It's kind of serving like a unity factor, and his whole mission seems to be coming from his connection having been, with the source when he at one time died and was actually able to go right into it. But as this phenomenon seems to show a cooperation in his connection with what he's doing here, and given the fact that he came up here not knowing anything about UFO activity or had no interest in it, there seems to be a definite set of dynamos there. Now, I have other case files I'm involved in. I've made my primary focus in this research to be with positive or benevolent contacts that are current and ongoing, instead of looking for retro singular case files that one time occurred or were documented back then. Because really what it boils down to is what do we have our hands on now that can really show itself? Well, up here was interesting because as we've watched it over the years, it seems to not really be able to go all the way because obviously there would be a little resistance. We have a lot of military activity that kind of monitors the ranch and such. But in other areas of the world, I was fortunate enough to also be connected with some very beautiful indigenous people who are connected with an actual physical component of extraterrestrials. There's like 44 different species of guides they're referred to. This case file goes back 15 years. And I have to, tell you, I don't just stand up here lightly about this because what I've done, and there's a small eclectic group of people who know about this, and now you're part of them, is to bring this documentation out that exists, and it's very strong in a journalistic standard, and it's very strong in a historical standard, and there is a lot of scientific evidence as well. We're going to place this in a documentary site, and we're going to present it to the world. This will be owned by a coalition that will be actually global in nature, so this will exist on several servers. That's already in progress now. What's exists as retroactive evidence is as recent as 1999. This group, or for lack of a better term, Galactic Confederation, is not here to impose themselves upon us. They're not here to of us. They're here basically monitoring us and studying us and willing to assist us if we acknowledge them in a positive vein. They're also, they're based on Ganymede, which is a moon of Jupiter. And they're basically, it's, how can you, what are the precedents for benevolence? I would say one precedence would be something not imposing itself upon you. In other words, if to resist their attempt to communicate with us, they would just leave us alone, even to our own demise if necessary. However, if the grassroots population of the world was to acknowledge them, they would be more than willing to share their knowledge with us before they just randomly gave us technology. They're not into military applications of any kind. So there's been some level of support within this field, I'm sure, as many of you are aware of and have heard about Roswell, all that stuff. However, on a global level, most people would find it hard to believe, but there are many countries where the populations know about the ET reality. So the question is kind of a quagmire. How can there be such a conspiracy to withhold information on a global level like that, and especially coming, say, mostly from where we live at in a country of free press and information? And I'm here to tell you I'm not a conspiratorial theorist or anything, because I don't see it that way. What I see basically is more of a social enigma that's developed, and it's very easy really to break this impasse using the internet and available documentary evidence that can't be denied, laid out in a proper fashion. So that's really what Project Contact's about. This evidence that's been compiled involves video footage from numerous news agencies down in Peru as recent as 1999, when this confederation announced to the contactees who I'm tied into, which they announced way ahead of time that this would occur, that there would be major overflights to demonstrate their reality. And there was, and you'll see some of that footage. Now, of course, nobody heard about this in Western press or whatever, and if they did, they kind of rejected it and such. But, you know, this is all going to change because we have what we need here, basically. It's, you know, there's no bars held on this. Once the grassroots becomes aware of this on a global level, and it's brought out in a proper fashion, because the proposal we make to this confederation is that they need to do these overflights again, but this time we're going to record it at a grassroots and broadcast it live. And we'll present it in a venue, maybe even similar to Alien Autopsy, where everybody will think it's entertainment only, and there'll be a hot debate about it, which will fuel the popularity of its publicity. Eventually, over a series of about 6 events over a year's time, 18 months' time, the whole world will know we're only trying to reach a 2% mass component, because in marketing, 2% of the total is all you have to achieve in order for it to exponentially achieve the whole 100% on its own. So now we have video capabilities right at our grassroots level. With our cell phones, we can do a global broadcast. It may not be the best in the world, but it's still effectual. The main thing is if we're tied into universities level wide, and we announced this intention ahead of time. We have a former previous documentary side of evidence that's all laid out, and we have a working team that's global in nature. There's no way that this can be taken away from the grassroots. Once the grassroots becomes aware that the ET reality is indeed real, I feel, and others do, that this is the only point in time where humanity can really begin to expand its consciousness, because it's been withheld and it's held back from advancing, because we're debating, you know, we look up in the sky and we see all these stars, and if you do the math, it would be a paranormal consequence for there not to be any life out there. But the fact that we actually have visiting extraterrestrial civilizations here on this earth is pretty hard to swallow for most, because we're wasting all these resources with, Eceti and all these other things. And, you know, there's so many people that have such high sets of academic standards being met that they're not allowed to advance beyond that point. So this is time for, you know, that expansion to occur. Once that happens, I believe that, you know, the world will become a better place. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But, you know, until that point's achieved, that's the main goal of Project Contact, is to achieve that awareness in a solid fashion. Up to this point, the military is resistant to them appearing, and that's why it hasn't really occurred in that type of level here in the U.S. But they'll do it again down in Peru, because the Peru military kind of lacks the capabilities that the U.S. military does, even though we're trying to step it up a little bit for them. But we're trying to gain their cooperation and their recognition that what they have within their grasp is probably one of the best treasures anybody here in humanity could ever have. That's the keys to all our future, and to be able to take the lead with humanity without having to own a singular nuclear weapon. Because, as I've suggested to the community in many think tank discussions, the problem, if it is world security, then we need to take a look at developing a relationship with advanced beings who have the best interests of all our world's faiths demonstrated through their behavior, because it is only through that kind of alliance that we can then have a secure world in considering a universe of beings that may exist. So there's many within the intelligence community. Thank you. So they're attempting to make that change, but we're stuck in this military mode. There's only one thing that's going to change it, I think, and it's at the grassroots level. If you ever, taking a look at firing up the charcoal for barbecue, you got to pour that fluid on it and fire it up, and it takes a while, pollutes the atmosphere. But they have a way you can just put a whole chamber, it's a cylinder, fill it full of your coal, one piece of paper underneath it, light it, the whole thing starts up. It's kind of a similar aspect. This disclosure is going to occur at a grassroots level. No government will be involved except that there can be a participant. And it's going to utilize the worldwide internet to do so, so that the grassroots level of all countries and cultures can become aware of this reality. And then other platforms can be developed for cross-cultural exchanges with new technologies that exist now for communication and stuff, to where everybody can begin to communicate and realize we all have our same roots from where we came from, but we need to look at the singular trunk of truth we all have and to advance into the future with this new body of information that will now present itself factually. I think it's then that probably even the Saddam Husseins and the bin Ladens might do a turnaround. And the Bushes, excuse me. I'm not anti-American at all, believe me. I'm just positive Earth, because we have a problem, and another thing people aren't aware of, but they will very shortly. We have deteriorating environmental conditions, and they aren't just going to affect those environmental aspects. They will come across a cross-platform and begin to affect all, and once it's gone, it'll never be back. I mean, in the long haul for eternity it will, but for our recorded history, it could be a loss. So if we can achieve this within the next 5 years, we can turn everything around in an unbelievable way. It'll be a little bit of a shakeup economically and many other ways, but it'll be well worth it, because what we're going to receive in exchange is incredible. So James is a big part of what he's doing has remained connected to this whole thing going on with this other case file. I can't even begin to tell you. The things that go on are incredible in nature. It's kind of like a spiritual connection of sorts, and I don't claim to be overtly religious or anything, but I think, I try to be as spiritual as I can. I see a spiritual connection there, but mostly I try to serve to try and raise people's awareness as to this reality. And as well, we have advanced physical beings that know of this reality and have the science of spirituality down, where some of the things they do are beyond belief. They're magical or mystical in our minds, as something would be to anybody who came into our day and age, say, from 500 years ago. So if you view it like that, and we try and keep it simple and don't over-mysticize it or anything, I think that, this can be successful. I had some stuff I wanted to show you here, but our technology is going to cooperate with this here. Let's see. I wanted to say there's a lineup of speakers here this weekend that are really incredible people. I know most of them, and what's incredible about these speakers is that they're noted scholars. They're not just researchers or ufologists. Some of them have come into this field risking all they have worked hard to achieve in their doctorate degrees. They've done so with the same notion in mind, to do the right thing and to help people to move forward with this. So I want to thank them, and they know who they are, for being here this weekend, and I'm looking forward to communicating with them and trying to create a little cohesion here, because there's a term called exopolitics that involves some scholarly folks trying to work out how the political aspects of our world can integrate into a new knowledge as this. There's two primary organizations now that exist, and I just want to mention that it's very important that those organizations stay cohesively connected, never in competition with each other, because they serve two different aspects of our global reality, and it's going to be important that they serve as they are from those dynamics of the duality there. So those folks are really good people, and what they're going to present to you today will deserve a lot of support. Dr. Sala has shown support for Project Contact, and not many folks have heard from me or about this. It's been kind of private at this point until this global coalition is firmly created and owns this before it's released here in the U.S. In a full public venue. There's good reason for this. I don't even need to go into why. See, the thing is nowadays it's a little bit different. Back in time, you know, to suppress this information from getting into the public realm, they might kill somebody, you know. And now, with the advent of the internet and everything else, there's probably, I'd say, a 95% aspect in the intelligence community that doesn't even really believe anything exists like this beyond Roswell, because it's just a part of human psychology, you know, to be on the inside and know that you have information on something that the general public does. You think you've got it all and that's it. There's nothing else. So it's all been kind of a godsend in a way. It's kind of kept a veil of protection over this group down in Peru. This group down in Peru is connected to another group which some of you may know about or heard of. It goes back into our mythological lore, some of our religious pretext involving an element called the Great White Brotherhood. Now, this isn't a racist organization or anything of any kind. What they refer to by white is it's a spiritual cloak of energy. It involves all races. This Great White Brotherhood, even though it's involved in a lot of aspects of New Age mythological lore, there's components of this case file that are involved with a real aspect of this. And it's probably one of the more difficult things that has been for me to find solid documentation and make that connection where it doesn't carry any other tonnage with it. But they claim that this Great White Brotherhood, which is an inner sanctum waiting to come out and aid humanity, has this connection with these guides, which are the extraterrestrials. And they have our previous history going way back before recorded history. And there's a point of time that's coming when they'll come out and they'll share all this information and they'll assist us in making this big step forward. What we have here, just to show you a little bit of some of the evidence, because I mean, this would really be short-sighted to not allow you to have that opportunity. Here's some footage right here that's off the news in Peru. This was back in 1999. What's interesting here is that this was announced ahead of time publicly to the general public and such, that all these events would occur in 1999. If you look at the historical record, you'll see that in 1999 was one of the biggest flaps of documented UFO activity ever in the history of the world. And most of the activity that demonstrated itself made sure to demonstrate characteristics that immediately put it into the component of UFO and non-conventional. In this little slot of footage here, you'll see this huge mothership behind these trees. And this footage, you know, that was sent to me on a third generation tape that had a movie recorded over. Let's see if I can make some adjustment here. Yeah, it's the projector. Over there. See if I can do something here. Okay, let's see if I can adjust it here.
It's because we're going to RCA cables, is why we're.
That helped out a little bit. Let's see here, see if I can do an adjustment here. Okay, that's a little bit better. Contrast it more. Okay, this is about the best it's going to get. You'll see it come in a little bit better here. I'm going to do full screen. But this eventually will be all accessible on the net. A computer projector we're dealing with here, which is part of the problem. Technology, it's one of the scariest things, I'll tell you, especially when you're standing in front of 200 people and trying to show something. This video footage, when I received it, I told the contactees that I've developed a relationship with over the years that I needed something to document that what they stated was real, that there was actually video footage that was shot by the newsreels. You can see it says channel 20, you know, all the footage has this. What we're attempting to do is negotiate and acquire the actual footage from the actual 3-chip cams, which would be very high resolution, and it could be data actually acquired from it. But as you can see, the cameraman here puts a doubler visually right over his camera, which is why you see 2 craft right there in the process there. In the front is the one that he starts to focus on as he's moving forward here. So, without wasting a bunch of time on trying to show all this, I think you get the idea. The most important thing is just to convey a couple elements here I think that are pretty important for people to process. Number one being that, you know, if what I'm saying is true and it ends up showing itself through the academic and scientific community worldwide, we all need to consider the importance of it, because the changes that might have to occur would be such that there might be sacrifice, meaning sacrifice would be that which we are dearly acclimated to and used to, whether that be money, power, acquirements. I would have to ask anybody on some level, does any of that matter? And if it does matter, I'm sure it matters with your lifetime and your lifetime. What about the deterioration of the environment? Does it matter? Maybe it wouldn't impact you in your lifetime, but there is one aspect, I think, that can touch everybody in their heart globally, no matter what country they're from, and that is our children, our offspring, are dear to our hearts. And what legacy or future will you leave them if you are not willing to make sacrifice and take proactive steps to that which will ensure the future for our children, environmentally, globally, security-wise? So for those of us that may have to make some sacrifices, it may very well be worthwhile to do so. Are we willing to break down our political barriers? A lot of things. Our past, our entire historic record is based upon all the wars we've ever had with each other on this planet. It doesn't mean that we extend that beyond this planet, because quite frankly, they won't allow that to happen. If we're going to continue in that, they're going to just let us do it right here, and they'll let us continue to our own demise. That's exactly what's going on. In the documentary site, there'll be NSA documents that are declassified. They demonstrate the Federation landing in the Peruvian airstrips, allowing them to shoot missiles at them, and, you know, couldn't do any harm to them, fire back or anything. Like I say, they're entirely benevolent. They're not looking to cause military conflict or try to take us over or anything. They're basically trying to give us an opportunity here, because the way I understand it, I guess there's some sort of aspect at this point in time with all our previous humanities, which evidently there's been other recorded histories of humanity never being able to make it beyond this point of the threshold of their evolution. And they're hoping that maybe this time we'll get it. So that's what's going on. There's one other aspect that I think touches everybody in the world, no matter what country they're from or what faith they belong to. It doesn't matter either how much money or power anybody would have. That aspect is we all have to face at some point in time the end of our physical life. So no matter how much we may try to avoid these things in life, at some point when we come to that crossing, we're going to care a lot all of a sudden. So it's best to take advantage of our time now, take a look at it and get the story right, and take advantage of this opportunity. Because to be honest with you, all the other information you hear out there about ufology and visiting extraterrestrials, Roswell, everything else, there's a lot of abductions, negative information out there. A lot of it has been previous instances, a lot of negative stuff about why we should maybe militarize against ETs. But there has really been nobody presenting anything like this, because I don't know, for some reason nobody really seems to have known about it or taken upon the opportunity, okay? So we're lucky to have this group of benevolent ETs here who can enable and secure our security in a universal fashion as well as advance. So there's a lot of opportunity here to view it as a positive thing, not a negative thing, or something to be scared of. That's basically the most important thing I want to get across. I hope that this will set the ground and the stage for these other speakers this weekend, because what they come to the table with is some academic, scientific, articulated talent, legal talent, universal legal talent. So what we have here this weekend is really unprecedented. We have the potential to put together a coalition that is really at a grassroots level, but has a lot of capability. And now we have the most important component, an actual visiting civilization that would be willing to cooperate and show themselves to us. Now, the aspects of the phenomenon up here at the ranch, the connection to this, I'm still working on. But I can tell you there is some sort of connection. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit if the phenomenon showed its capability by potentially doing a landing out in this field. That's what we're going to try and do. You know, we're going to set up some lighting arrays out there. We're going to try and set up a light beam communication, which is voice audio transmission on a light beam. It's been successful in past contactee cases. Those sort of things, and try and get this phenomenon up here to interact as much as possible. Beyond that, though, it is showing support for what we're doing, and I think that there's probably an aspect of the phenomenon up here that could be in a very high aspect. So it is connected. So no telling what you'll run into, what you experience. It's all going to be good, though. We'll all experience something called the Kundalini rising, which is why everybody's so hot, besides of the fact that the sun's out. So, you know, I can just hope that everybody sees this in a real positive aspect. Eventually, within the next year, there will be access to this information publicly with all the video clips and everything. It might take another year. So until then, hopefully you'll process the rest of the information and you'll be ready for it. So, James, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to you. Thank you. So, I guess I can just have 5 minutes here. If anybody's got any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer.
People do have questions. We do have a question mic here. You can come to the mic so we can get it on the tape. And so line up for that possible. Check.
Yeah, last night, there was a woman that was suggesting that those who want to get a better visual view of if anything should happen was pointing. We couldn't really tell. We're camping, and we couldn't really tell exactly where she was pointing to because it was getting kind of dark. So I was wondering about that. In area, you want to kind of get a group together. And
This is it's a good question, and it's something that I did want to mention here. It's important in these types of sky watches and stuff, especially for the scientific and academic community. I'm setting up a series of protocols that'll be accessible to anybody that does a sky watch. Basically, it'll be one-page paper. What it involves is just reciting into a tape recorder, which will be in this box here up at the ranch, just 4 or 5 simple things, and the list will be there. It'll basically be Smith is of where this sighting is at, which there'll be a marker in the ground which will say north, and so that's 0. Directly behind you is 180, and it goes 0 to 360. We need, azimuth, elevation, 0 is ground level, 90 is straight up, elevation, the time, and the magnitude, that's how bright it is, and any, a couple other aspects. But those simple things announced into a tape recorder begin to compile a database, because by all rights, 50% or more of these should be attributable to satellites or that sort of thing. But there's like a 911 chart here we'll create that shows real aspects that immediately throw something into a UFO category, okay? So those protocols are going to be outlaid here tonight, hopefully, where we can start doing those. And it'll be an important thing, because we can't just say anything we see is this or that or whatever, We have to have some sort of way of cataloging it and keeping it tracked.
Originally you started telling the story. You said you were out here for some scientific research and you had done your project. What was your general conclusion at the end of all that? What was your prognosis? Was it interdimensional craft? Was it zeta reticulans? Did you come to a final conclusion on all that?
Well, it's open-ended, but what I'm developing is a theory of the phenomenon as it presents itself up here. Displays what I would consider a whole spectrum of anomalous phenomenon that can occur related to plasma. So, for lack of a better term, I'm just going around with interdimensional plasma dynamics, but we've seen certain aspects of the phenomenon demonstrate itself from an actual fairy-type being to other types of orb-related phenomenon that are not related to reflected particulate matter, to actual physical craft showing themselves within these orbs of light. Over time, this entire area has been coined or termed as the Great Balls of Light, because there is this ball of light type phenomenon. So I think that we need some backing, obviously, for equipment, and this, everything's just so ad hoc and out of pocket right now, for simple things like ionic detectors, which I believe will find that there'll be a high ionic content in the air when we see this phenomenon show itself. And this is something that we'll work with scientists on and everything as the interest becomes critiqued and developed in this. But the answer to your question in short is I think there's a whole spectrum of phenomenon that's being demonstrated here, and it's more capable to manifest in this area with some relationship to the Ring of Fire and the generation of aspects in the environment that allow it to occur.
Hi, it was fascinating when you mentioned the other countries having ET consciousness reality. Almost like we are lacking an intimacy of knowledge between us as a group in the United States. That's the impression that I got when you said that. I was just wondering if you could expand on that, what it's like, what the reality is like with the, people knowing.
Yeah, it's a good question again. Well, the greatest thing about it is, and there is some information I have sent out publicly, so if any of you send me an email, you'll have access to email on our cards and stuff. I will send you, some of the releases that did go out. It mentions in there that, the entire population, public population of Peru became quite aware of the ET reality right in their back door, and they have fared just well, okay? So much for the old Brookings report of yesteryear that had disparaging adage in it that humanity could not handle it and wasn't prepared. Maybe back then, but now we have a prototype that's demonstrated that we are ready and can handle it. So I think that, once the grassroots population of the world is made aware of this and they can access this information, it probably have to be, for most in the U.S., I believe, they're not going to believe anything unless they see it in print on their delivered newspaper or through the silver screen that has the news on it. But we're going to bring it through that venue. So, any other questions? I'm going to tell you something that was incredible. I should mention back in 2003, some of the most incredible crop formations occurred right out our back door in Sci Applications home base. That's the nonprofit foundation that I had. Right off the San Francisco doorstep. You might have seen it in the news. It hit worldwide publicity. And I was really perplexed to try and figure out, why are these crop formations occurring right outside our back door? What's the relationship, So we had a scientific team, some really good scientists, a couple of them were back east, who helped us to document the phenomenon, because in seriology there's actual physical aspects that science loves to document, and they can actually hold it and see it, so it's a great thing. 6 months to a year investigation ensued, and amazing thing was, this was in a wheat field, and there was this huge, incredible design that had all these different aspects of geometry in it, beyond Euclidean geometry. It was discovered by Gerald Hawkins, a late astronomer and mathematician. 5 new theorems existed in this formation. I was joking with my new research associates during that time. Can you imagine if a huge crop formation occurred in an 8-foot-high corn, where instead of dealing with millimeter-thick wheat stalks, you could see inch-thick corn stalks? And I perished in thought because I was so exhausted doing this other one. 2 days later, all of a sudden, I get a call that there's another formation up in Vacaville, the city north, and it just happens to be the biggest crop formation ever, an 8-foot-high corn in the entire world, the only pictogram, insectoid pictogram ever in 8-foot-high corn, and so we had to document that. And so I started running with it then. I said, let's do a live broadcast. Let's do a little protocol for a contactor. So I hooked up my cell phone to this laptop, and the scientist back east said, yeah, well, why not? Let's try it, So we did this live broadcast from the formation, and they helped us to document all these scientific aspects in this report that's published on SolanoCircles.com. And so the scientific community, they wrote this big article about it. It was in MUFON Journal and everything, because they just thought it was the greatest thing to do that live broadcast from this, cornfield formation. Little did they know that all these aspects were being set up as providing credibility to the foundation. At the very end, we did a further thing. I said, well, let's just go ahead and hold a mainstream press conference, and we'll call global news, and we did it. And NBC was there, CBS was there, and so for the first time ever, we presented this evidence on something paranormal on mainstream news. And of course, I took upon the opportunity to talk to some of the reporters about what will be upcoming in the next press conference. So that's how we're going to achieve it then. You see, these crop circles, I think without them, there's no way that I would be able to say, yeah, we're going to pull a press conference, you know, because they wouldn't even think about it. But because of this, you know, it was a precursor stage that kind of set the stage for it. So it's interesting.
And for those of you who don't know, Steve here was one of the lead investigators on that big crop circle down there in California. About how many people showed up at that one? It was over 100,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot of people. It's quite an event. I learned a lot in that process and got a chance to meet some really great people around the world. Cereologists are really great people because they don't have to suffer the consequences that some nephrologists do, you know. But a lot of scientists involved with documentary techniques to document the changes in the stocks, the cellular levels and stuff. Again, they're finding out that there's a plasma-related type energy that's associated with it. So all these scientists will actually are kind of involved in Project Contact, and they're waiting to see what I'm bringing forward and how that's going to happen too. So, you know, there is an interest in the mainstream academic and scientific communities. A lot of them are like in the closet and afraid to come out because of their peers, what they might put them through and all that. But that's all going to change because what's going to be kind of reformulated here is an opportunity. And if it's done right, people will be jumping. It'll be a great thing. I guess that's it. Thank you.
I have to thank Steve for a wonderful presentation. I like to leave the building when people talk about me, so that way they can say whatever they want. So, you know, we're gonna take a break here. I don't think we have the food court together yet. It's coming together. Should be together this evening. They have a store that I know most people brought their own food, so bear with us. There's a little store down at the end of the road here that they're geared up for big crowds. They said they've got a lot of food and whatever you need. We're going to start back, I believe, at 1:30 with Neil Freer. And we're going to kick on both these fans and open some doors and get it cooled down in here. And we got some other fans coming. And hopefully we can get this sound system a little bit tweaked. We had one speaker die on us, and we're going to try to get that tweaked so you can hear it a little better. So thanks, and we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you.